Holy cow, folks. That was a bit of a power outage here at the headquarters of Data Access Golf. Good night. That wasn't very good. We sat around for an hour waiting for the power to come back on. Ish. Hour-ish. But, I mean, all our lights are off. Oh, dear. That's not right. There you go. Oh, this one's off. Mercy. Hey, folks. Sorry about that. We were talking about Kevin Na. We were looking at how the big win, what it did for him, and changing his sort of his life. And boom, somebody took us off. Somebody knocked us out. So I've got all these programs still coming up. So let me get rid of these, and we'll jump back into it. I'm not going to play the intro. Let's just go right back. We don't know how long we're going to have power. So let's jump back in. We're going to bring up the iPad. I've left it exactly where it was when we were so rudely interrupted. But Kevin Na, by winning over the weekend, went from number 40th in the world all the way up to 24th. So top 25er, pretty cool there. And FedEx Cup ranking went from 48th all the way up to 2nd with his big win, only behind one. I think it's Sebastian Munoz is still the only one up ahead of him there. So pretty good results there for Kevin. And looking, I'm going to get myself out of the way again here. Whoop, whoop. There we go. Okay. So looking at the FedEx Cup rankings, as we mentioned, all the way from 48th up to 2nd. And then really, let's see, we've got Brian Harman. Boy, that doesn't really read well, does it? We've got Brian Harman at 10th. Harris English dropped to 9th. Tom Hoagie dropped to 7th. Patrick Cantlay, who had a really finished 2nd, went from 95th all the way up to 2nd. Sungjae Him is dropped to 6th. Adam Hadwin dropped one up to 5th. Joaquin Newman dropped to 4th from 3rd. Cameron Champ dropped got bumped by Kevin Na, jumping all the way up there into 2nd. So, and Sebastian Munoz holds on 4 events and holds on to that number 1 ranking. As far as the changes go, John Rahm actually went over in the European Tour this week, so this helped him jump up a spot from 4th to 5th in the world, which bumped Justin Rose down to 5th. Patrick Cantlay with his 2nd popped up from 7th to 6th, which bumped Justin Thomas down 1. You've got Bryson DeChambeau with a decent tournament there in Vegas. Jumps up from 10th to 8th, which bumped Tiger down to 9th and bumped Xander Schauffele down to 10th. So that's what we're looking at there as far as the world rankings goes. Oh, my wife is texting me to make sure I'm okay. Okay, so I've changed this a little bit. Ugh, wow, that's really bad, isn't it? You know what? Let me do this. I'm going to get rid of myself. We're going to go back to here. And let me see if I can do this. I'm going to subtract me, go all the way there. And I'm going to turn off, there we go. Turn off green screen. That helps out a ton. Okay, so let's take a look at this real quickly here. So this is what I like to call the consistency scale. And we look at a player's consistency rating, which essentially is just looking at their, you guys don't mind, right? I'm gonna bring myself back on here, but I'm just not going to do the green screen. Oh, somehow or another it's working and it's not going green on here. So perfect. Okay, so the cool thing about a consistency scale, or what I started to use that is you get these players, and I think Kevin Na is like one of the perfect examples. You hear his name a lot, he's around a lot, and yet you're not exactly sure how in the world he fits in the world of golf. I mean, how good is this guy? And, we don't know. He's been playing for a long time. I mean, he's played in 398 events. So he's been around for quite some time, but where does he fit in? And so I came up with this idea of the consistency rating, which is essentially just how many cuts divided by how many events you've been in, and it gives you kind of an idea of how consistent they are over the course of their career. In last year, I basically just showed only the winners on tour and where they fit in. But I've decided this year to kind of give us a better idea of how everybody fits in. I've got the current top 10 on the official World Golf rankings in the consistency scale. And then all those that have won this year on tour are all caps in bold. So that'll kind of give us an idea of where they're all fitting in. Okay, so as far as Kevin Na goes, he's been in, like I mentioned, 398 events, and he has made 272 cuts, which puts him at a 68% consistency rating. And that puts him right in that good category. And so I've got them listed as legends, 90, making 90% of your cuts or above. Tiger Woods is the only one that fits into that category in the top 10. It's amazing, right? He makes 9 out of 10 of the cuts. And he went on that one, I keep forgetting to look up that record. It was some number of tournaments where he didn't miss a cut. And they're saying it's probably, as far as longevity goes and consistency goes, and it may be the greatest record in all of major sports, how many cuts he made in a row. But so you've got Tiger Woods there, who's ranked 9th in the world. That's within the parentheses. He's the only one that's made over 90% of his cuts in this particular top 10 list. The elite players then would include all the way down. You've got, Koepka, McIlroy, DJ, Rahm, Rose, Cantlay, and Thomas. You've got 1 through 7. They're in the elite status, and they make between 80 and 89% of their cuts. In the solid status, you've got Neiman and Schauffele, who's also top 10. And then a good player, Kevin Na, would be one that fits in there. He's made 68% of his cuts, and that puts him right in there with Bryson DeChambeau, who's ranked 8th in the world right now. So he fits into that category. He's trending better, as is Kevin Na is trending better in the last 3 years especially. And those who probably would lose their card if they had not won would be Sebastian Munoz and Cameron Champ. I mean, they're down below 59%. Cameron Champ is like 51%. So he's, down there, right? Making basically 50% of his cuts. And those types of individuals don't typically keep their card. But these two, Munoz and Champ, have both won on tour. So Munoz has a 2-year extension, and Cameron Champ now has a 3-year extension. Every time you win, and that was his second win, they add another year onto it. And so I don't know if it's because he has 2 years to the end at the end of next year, and then you add 3 to it. I don't know how that works, but that's where he's at. Probably should look into that a little bit. So that's how it all fits out. So Kevin Na is a good player, keeps his card year to year, and but trending, right? He just gets up 1-2 more percentage points in the way he's been playing. The problem he's got as far as the consistency rating goes is we probably should do some, over the last 5-year trend or something, because he's been on tour for so long. It's going to take him quite a lot of good play to change out that average, right? Because he's just got so many events, and it makes it difficult to move. Where you look at a guy like Neiman there, who's been on the tour, less than 2 years. Yeah, his consistency rating can be a lot higher because he's played in so many fewer events, right? Okay. All right, let's keep moving on here. I need to move myself again, get myself out of here. There we go. Okay, so this is the benchmark review that we like to do every single week. That is the graphic I've got up there that I put out after a tournament win. This is the one I Instagrammed out yesterday. So definitely follow us on Instagram, Data Access Golf on Instagram, if you want to get that and kind of see the data before we actually talk about it. I'll send out that little graphic kind of announcing the winner and kind of some idea of where they finished with some of that data. Obviously, Kevin Na finished first in the money, and he finished first in strokes gained putting, which we'll talk about. It's amazing. Set a record, obviously, for his strokes gained putting numbers, but everything else, 316 yards, was his average drive, which put him at 28th. Driving accuracy, tied 25 at 71%. Greens and regulation, tied 46. It was the putter. The putter got things done for Kevin Na this week, no question about it. So what we do here with these benchmarks is, again, Data Access Golf is all about getting better with the least amount of practice time possible and utilizing, whether it's the office, whatever it is, to make sure that we stay sharp with our games, even though we don't have, every day, all day to practice like some of the tour pros do. So this is how we do it. We make sure that we use these benchmarks to make sure that we are working on that part of our game that is weakest. So we can always be playing well and keeping our game in tour quality, right? Tour quality fashion. And that's how we use these benchmarks. That's how I've set them up. These benchmarks then are set up on actual PGA Tour pros stats. So these benchmarks were created from the 2019 statistics, and I think they're pretty solid. They held up really well from the 2018 statistics, and so not much has changed. I think the only one we changed drastically was probably putts per round, and that 29 was just too easy. I mean the 30 was too easy, so we dropped it down to 29 and a half. Just to give us some challenge, just a little bit there. So let's review the numbers then. So we'll review the numbers that Kevin Na had for this tournament, and we'll also review the numbers that he averaged, for 2019. So driving accuracy, we'll start right at it there, which is right here. Let me bring up my little thing here. There we go. We'll start here at driving accuracy. So Kevin Na averaged 71% of fairways hit. In 2019, he averaged 64, right? 64%. Our benchmark then is this 55%. So Kevin Na in the green for both of those he hit more fairways on average than he did in 2019. That's pretty typical. So good on him there. Greens in regulation, again, in this column here, you've got for the tournament, 75%. And then for 2019, he averaged 64%, which we can see here, 65 is our benchmark. So anytime we have a number lower than our benchmark, that's the part of our game that we should be working on. So in this particular case, we'd have Kevin Na working on his approach shots. So whatever his average club is in, and it should be an 8-iron, we found out, should be an 8-iron. All of us should average 8 irons into the green. If we don't average 8 irons into the green, then we're not playing the right tees. To keep apples to apples, right? That's what we should be averaging. Our average approach shot should be an 8-iron. Okay, so those who averaged, I guess we didn't really do that, but those who averaged less than 55% fairways hit for 2019, you've got Jordan Spieth, Phil Mickelson, and Peter Uihlein. Those who averaged less than the 65% here in greens and regulation, Brent Snedeker, Justin Rose, top 10 in the world, and Francisco Molinari, who recently fell out of the top 10 in the world. Okay, so these are the numbers. They're solid. These are good benchmark numbers to keep our game in a really good place. So Sanseis for the tournament, that's this column here. We've got 83%, which is pretty amazing. 55% of all of 2019 and 45% being our benchmark. Those that finished less than 45%, Paul Casey, Keegan Bradley, and Jonathan Vegas. I always like to talk about, we had Tony Finau was in here for 2018. He worked on his sand game, got quite a bit better. So these players use these benchmarks as well, maybe not quite the same way we do, but they keep an eye on their game, that's for sure. We mentioned strokes gained putting. This is a new record here on the PGA Tour. He picked up 14.09 strokes on the average person in the field on the green. Woo! That is amazing. That is unbelievable if you think about it. From 4 rounds, over 2 strokes. Wait, more than that. Right? I mean, what am I talking about? He picked up over 3 strokes on the average player every single day. Unbelievable. Really a new record there on the PGA Tour, especially when we look at Kevin Na typically only picks up less than a stroke on the field for a tournament in 2019. So his putting was truly extraordinary this week, and that's what got it done. We saw there he was 28th in driving distance, 25th in average, as far as average driving accuracy goes, and only tied for 46 in greens and regulation, which we already say is typically kind of a problem for him, right? We can see right there. So work on the greens and regulation for sure, as far as his game goes. Scrambling now, right here, tournament, 72%, so very good. He averaged 59%, which is only 4 points higher than our benchmark. And players that average less than 55%, you're looking at Phil Mickelson, Jason Duffner, and Hunter Mahan. Obviously, Hunter Mahan is coming back from some struggles, but Jason Duffner had a few good tournaments, and Phil Mickelson is that's why I put him in here. There were some other people, but Phil Mickelson is known to be a wizard with the wedge, so it's just weird to see him in that category, below 55% for the year. Definitely playing better this year in the 2020 season, so we'll see how that goes for him. And then putting, our putting statistics. We only look at 5-footers now. The reason we only look at 5-footers is because that is how we are going to get better with our putting game, is just work on 5-footers. 5-footers and in. If we can get 90% or higher, that takes so much pressure off the rest of our game. So that's our focus. 5-footers. when we have the chance to practice a little putting, I don't care if it's 10 minutes before you go out off the first tee, spend it with 5-footers. 90% of it, 5-footers. Get it so 5-footers and in are nothing, right? You make 9 out of 10 of them. It takes all the pressure off your sand game, your scrambling game, your approach shots. If you know you've got a 10-foot circle around every pin and you can make 90% of those, the pressure comes off the rest of your game. So focus on those 5-footers and in, and then maybe 9 out of 10 are those 5-footers, and then do a couple lag putts. It takes tons of pressure off your lag putts too. Okay, so really work on the 5-footers. We can see here that Kevin Na is 84%, so in the green still, and 28.9 as far as putts per round. So good there. So really the only problem that we can see in Kevin Na's game is that 64%, and it reared its ugly head also up here, right? When he finished greens in regulation, 75%, tied for 46th. Okay, so we can kind of see how that works out there. Keep going. Okay, the money. Now, I tried to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it a little bit more. But what we do here is I just like to take the kind of the averages so we can get the insane amounts of money that these players make for their effort. And again, not taking anything from them. If this is, this is good money. And if you can get this, great. But for the Shriners Hospital for Children Open, they paid out, boy, it was, I can't remember what the purse was. What was the purse? I think if we go back a couple, do I do the purse on here? Total purse? Yeah, $7 million. So right up here, total purse there. So that comes out too on Instagram. If you know what the total purse is, get on Instagram. We'll send that out to you every time. So of that $7 million, Kevin Na took home $1.26 million for his effort. He got around in 261 strokes, which is amazing. So what does that work out to be? You've got 4 days of work, right, for that. So that makes $315,000 a day is what he made for his effort. We assume 5-hour rounds, so that's $63,000 an hour, which is a good wage. Or $4,000, almost $5,000 per stroke is what he earned for his career. This is amazing, right? For his career, Kevin Na has earned over $30 million. Okay, so we've got them in that. That's that good category, right? If we go all the way back to, let's see if I do this. How do I do this? If I get rid of this, done, and I click on here, and I go back up to, how do we do this? Boom, here. Okay, so his consistency rating, he's in the good category, right? Good category over the course of his career. What does that equal? Well, that equals, let me take us back down to here and hit play. Oh, there we go. So what does that equal? Oh, well, that equals $30 million. Just being good on the PGA Tour, as far as consistency goes, makes you $30 million for your effort. That's decent. That's good money. If you budget right, you can live on that. So he's made 272 cuts in his career, which equates to $111,666 per cut, right? So he's made 272 cuts. He's made that, gives him the 30 million. That's how we figure that all out. So Kevin Na. So some of the folks that we keep track of, and I'm going to expand this. I need to make it bigger. This is ridiculous. So I'll make it bigger, and maybe we'll look at the top 10 again and kind of get an idea of where they fit in. But Tiger Woods leads this list again. He averages $365,000 per cut. So he not only makes the cut, but he finishes very high after he makes the cut. So his average take home is $365,000. Right, $250,000 more than Kevin Na's average per cut check, which is truly amazing, incredible there. So that's the money that we look at. So I thought this was kind of fun. So some of the 29 accomplishments, I just have started doing that this year. So I mentioned he's won the last 3 years. So last year he won the Charles Schwab Challenge. That was his victory. He earned over the course of 2019 $2.2 million for the year, and he finished 61st in the FedEx Cup points, so he missed the Tour Championship. But we'll see how he does. He's already got a victory now. So with that one victory, it's very rare to see somebody not make the Tour Championship. So there was a few that won on tour and didn't quite make it, and Kevin Na was one of those from last year. Okay, and the last thing we do here is I just wanted to bring this up before. I just kind of had these listed out. We weren't doing anything with them, but just to kind of keep them. I mean, it's still, geez, I mean, the Masters is months away, right? It's 6 months away. So I just thought we'd use this screen instead of doing nothing with it and just having it blank. So April 9th to the 12th at Augusta National will be the Masters. Defending champion Tiger Woods, USPGA, TPC Harding Park there in California. Brooks Koepka, defending champion there. The U.S. Open was played at Pebble Beach. Winged Foot, defending champion Gary Woodland. And then at the British Open, I'm sorry, folks across the pond, you can say, call it the Open if you want. But for me to just kind of keep it straight, everybody's got an Open around here. So we call yours affectionately the British Open. That's what we were raised with, not to offend, not to upset anybody. But it will always be the British Open to us because that is the only way we can keep track of it. When you call it the Open, around here, we assume it's the Provo Open. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So the British Open, I'm sorry, folks. Please forgive me, at Royal St. George's. And that will be a really cool, fun tournament there. So that's what we're looking at next year. It's going to be, it's amazing how you have a major every single month nowadays, right? Once it gets started in April, we go April, May, June, July. And then, you know, in March, we have the players. So it's like boom, 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 boom. 1 month after another, we got big tournaments, which has kind of been fun. So, all right, so that gets it done. Let me bring me back up here to the main screen. Good, that worked out great. We'll set the iPad over. So that's it for Kevin Na. Sorry about the technical difficulties in the middle when we lost power, but really an interesting player in Kevin Na. Really excited for him. He seems to have, he's one of these guys that just seems to have gotten very comfortable after having kids. And as everybody knows, for me, one of the coolest things ever is to see players celebrate with their families on the 18th green. I just think that's the best thing in the world, and I grin ear to ear when I see it. And Kevin Na is one of those guys that started out was single when I saw him, and his dad was yelling at him, single guy, married, happily married, 2 kids now. Very cool. Excellent stuff. Good to see him and a good victory. What we can learn from Kevin Na, perseverance. You cannot say anything about this guy but perseverance. So my parting word on Kevin Na is he is trending in the right way. We have seen him grow up on tour. He has become the kind of player that he is on tour before our eyes, fighting through everything, coming out as a 17-year-old kid and just laying it all out there, just wide open for all of us to take a look at and watch. And getting through the, I can't imagine what it would be to try to perform under that kind of pressure and then throw on top of that a dad yelling at you or falling apart every time you miss a putt would be very difficult. So just such an impressive guy, and to watch what he did yesterday, triple bogey, and then to kind of, and I think everybody, a lot of us who watched Kevin Na go through the full swing yips where he couldn't even take the club back, and the struggles there, the slow play. I mean, his caddy is an angel, that they've stuck together this long. But it's just been, I don't know, it's cool to see somebody persevere like this, to overcome so much. And what I think is going on with Kevin Na now, I think that everybody needs to sort of stand up and take notice. He's figured out a way to make big mistakes like that triple bogey and still not let the wheels come off. He has now done it. There's a lot of people that talk about, hey, I can handle pressure and whatever, but until you've actually handled it and overcome it and done it, then that changes things. And we've seen in Jordan Spieth at the Masters, when the wheels came off there, I don't think he's quite overcome all of that yet. The mental demons are still there. Kevin Na with the full swing yips and all the trouble that he's had there, to snap hook that 3-wood, double cross it, and then stand up on the next tee and pummel one down there with confidence that was just a one-off. He has learned something about himself, something about his game that makes him very dangerous going forward, very consistent going forward. So would expect to see his consistency percentage rise, and have him pop up out of that good area, get to that good category for sure. I think that we'll see that. It's going to take him a while longer. I need to go do some trending there and see how he's been doing lately, because I'm sure it's much better than when he came out at 17, right? And not that he was on the PGA Tour then. So anyway, that is it for this Data Monday with Kevin Na at the Shriners Hospitals for Children Open in Las Vegas. where I graduated from UNLV, as did Adam Scott and a variety of other folks. But thanks again for joining us here on Data Access Golf. Please join us on Facebook. If you want to get into the private club, please do so. That's just the Data Access Private Club. 3 questions just to make sure that you are not a professional, that you are somebody that that wants to work on your game, that you're over 30 years old. That's essentially it. That's all we have in there. It'll be good discussion. I've put in there some Fred Shoemaker stuff, the podcast, so they're directly available there. A lot of these Data Monday things will move into there, so we'll be able to take a look at those after, and we'll remove them off the regular Facebook page. And then definitely follow us on Instagram, put up a lot of different quotes and graphics and things there that I think are data-based, but interesting. Definitely worth a follow, I think, for sure. So take a look at us on Instagram, Data Access Golf. Till next time, this is Aaron Stewart saying better data always means better golf. Thanks.